You know the term Sharashka? It's slang for a suspicious, hastily thrown together organization. The word became associated with a type of forced labor facility in the Soviet Gulag system. OKB scientists and engineers who'd been convicted of crimes were sent to a Sharashka for forced R&D. The Sharashkas were supervised by Lavrenti Beria of the NKVD, the secret police, under the official name 4th Special Department.
Forced research? That's not very different from what we do here.
Diamond Dogs is different. Everyone here believes in you.
After the fall of MSF, Diamond Dogs rose into prominence as the next best PMC by Big Boss. During the 1980s, Big Boss was able to acquire space by the Seychelles in order to recreate what he had on Mother Base, also known as Outer Heaven. While PMCs, or PMFs, are a regular occurrence in the Metal Gear series, Diamond Dogs were so aptly named for the fact that they take any job, no matter how dirty. True dogs of war. The goal of any PMC, Diamond Dogs included, is to acquire funds, weapons, and to be the most hireable force out there. Diamond Dog soldiers had the added pleasure of being able to seek revenge for the events of Ground Zeroes. Ground Zeroes was a terrible attack put on by Skullface for which many lives were lost on Mother Base. Surviving soldiers were scarred and angry. For the soldiers, they were willing to give up their lives for the cause. For Big Boss, he was willing to give up their lives for his cause.
Once word of Big Boss's return starts traveling, that'll be our true deterrent against Cypher. In other words, no one will dare to come gunning for you.
How do you figure?
Cypher lacks a large-scale fighting force. PFs are the perfect tool for them. But those PFs revere you, the legendary Big Boss. If Cypher killed you now, they wouldn't take it lying down.
Regardless how you feel about Big Boss, the man was a living legend. Soldiers from around the world desired to witness him, to join him. The journey from Naked Snake to Big Boss is a topic for another video, but what I can say is, Big Boss's vision of the world and his vision for the world shifted. The Big Boss that soldiers knew, that we have come to know, was nothing more than a cult of personality. Diamond Dogs was nothing more than a cult, with Big Boss heading the entire operation. A person doesn't join a cult, they join a movement. There are various groups and communities rooted in spiritual and religious beliefs. For many folks, these groups become a large part of their life. Strangers become friends, family. To many, these groups become home. When does this shift occur? When does a group that begins with such unifying thought begin preying on its members? All good cults begin with the purest of intentions. Nexium started as a self-improvement company with its main emphasis to have people experience more joy in their lives. The Sarah Lawrence cult was led by a man who initially provided guidance and direction to young adults. Heaven's Gate members found leadership in an unorthodox but charismatic figurehead. In her TED Talk, Yanya Lalich states that cults uphold a transcendent ideology and require a high level of commitment from its members in words and deeds. Most importantly, it requires a personal transformation orchestrated by the cult. What binds these cults to each other is the systematic way in which they ripped apart their victims' lives and rebuilt them in an image that benefited the leader, whether a coincidence or by design. Each of these cults subjected their participants to trainings that often lasted hours, days, even weeks. Sort of like a timeshare presentation, by the end of these meetings, participants' energy are well eroded. You're left in a daze, and honestly, a little bit vulnerable. It is in this moment of vulnerability where susceptibility is high. We initially spoke about Diamond Dogs as being composed of soldiers willing to be in the presence of Big Boss. During Phantom Pain, we ultimately learn that soldiers are not only voluntarily enlisting, soldiers are also recruited by means of rescuing POWs and enlisting them or kidnapping enemy soldiers. Imagine how vulnerable of a position you would be in if your enemy has now recruited you into their ranks. Imagine the greatest soldier in your lifetime recruits you, despite you being an enemy, and says that you have a valuable skill, that he wants you on his team. You're kept alive, unlike what you might have done to one of his soldiers. You're given provisions, lodging, unlike what you might have done to them. You're told that you're useful. You might have been given an S+ rank, something that you're told is a high honor. With your skills, you're given a new name. From what was a deadly and vulnerable position, you are now a high-ranking official.
Miller told me about what happened in the Caribbean 9 years ago. You do remember Miller. You'd formed a private army with him, an army with no allegiance to a nation.
I remember, but
I see. You're not sure what's fact and what's a fantasy caused by the coma. It's still all a mess, huh? All I can do is tell you the facts as they were told to me. I've gone easy on you up until now, but this is where the hard stuff begins.
A true high-ranking official in Diamond Dogs is Ocelot. There's not much to be said about Ocelot's self-surrender to Big Boss. He's a willing and knowing participant. Ocelot is the first person to become infatuated with Big Boss. In this realm, he's not a victim, but a willing participant. Ocelot is perhaps the only member that knows the entirety of the operation and yet chooses to stay. Ocelot's willingness to brainwash himself into believing Venom was Big Boss is only part of his larger role to support Big Boss's will. In every cult, there's a second in command, and Ocelot fills that role. Ocelot is a true believer and has fallen prey to confirmation bias throughout this series that keeps him following Big Boss. Venom Snake falls prey to confirmation bias and could be seen as the ultimate victim in this cult. Unlike other soldiers on Mother Base, Venom's conditioning is to a degree that he doesn't even remember who he was before. He doesn't have a name or a face. He awakens and is instantly guided by the man in the hospital, who seemingly disappears and is disregarded by his new guide, Ocelot.
The safest place from a whale is inside its own belly. You were a regular Geppetto.
well, it wasn't Pinocchio who led me out to safety. So who was that guy?
Cypher went so far as to attack British territory, burning their own ally. That's how badly they wanted you dead.
Under Ocelot, Venom is reminded of, quote-unquote, who he is. And when Venom asks inquiring questions, Ocelot is able to shift the conversation. Rather than press Ocelot, Venom accepts any and all suggestions. Venom is the ultimate victim of this cult, as he has literally given his life to it. Almost nothing of Venom is his own. We see glimpses of his original character, such as showing mercy to Quiet and the children of Zaire. Paz's diary cassettes are interesting, as on one hand, you could say it's a result of the conditioning to make Venom believe he was Big Boss and furious with her death at the hands of Skullface. However, in Paz's diary number 5, she states, "It's no mystery now. I'm just a phantom, a fragment of the mind you have lost." Venom is Big Boss's ultimate soldier. In discussing this Diamond Dogs cult, it's important that we address Kaz's role and ultimately his rejection of the cult. Kaz holds the role of whistleblower. By the end of MGSV, we find out that Kaz is the only member who knows the truth. Kaz knows the truth of Venom's identity, and Kaz is also aware of Ocelot's doublethink. Kaz is the only member of Diamond Dogs whose cognitive dissonance is strong enough to break away from Big Boss's charm. Kaz is so disillusioned by what Big Boss has done, he spends the rest of his life seeking revenge.
The Phantom carries on his legend, his meme. That is Big Boss's plan.
So that's the way it is. 9 years ago, I thought everything had been taken from me. But now I really have lost it all. The boss, and the future we were building together.
One day, the age of Big Boss's sons will arrive. They'll likely want to settle the score with him. We have to shape that age. We'll each have roles to play.
Big Boss can go to hell. I'll make the Phantom and his son stronger to send him there. For that, I'll keep playing my role.
During MGSV, Kaz is ostracized, even by the player. Kaz is seen as grumpy, angry. There are moments when it seems like Ocelot is the one checking Kaz's place. As the player, we're also checking Kaz. We're thinking, why are you not agreeing with us? Why are you not part of the team? Know your place. Kaz's ultimate mistake in the Metal Gear Solid series was seeing himself as Big Boss's equal. To even drive home further, symbolically, how ostracized Miller is, he is the only member of Diamond Dogs without a codename. I know what some of you are thinking, and no, Huey doesn't count. 1, Huey is a prisoner of Diamond Dogs. He's never fully a member. And 2, he sucks. He just sucks. Never be Huey. Huey's terrible. Start a war. Fan its flames. Create victims. Then save them. Train them. And feed them back onto the battlefield. Never give up. Fight until the end. Always believe you'll succeed. Even when the odds are against you. Those are your words. Even I make mistakes from time to time. Cults need participants. Initially, they need a unifying goal. They need one true leader who is not questioned, who is not denied, and who has no equal. Cults only last as long as the participants are willing to be part of it. Every cult leader is often described as being charismatic, powerful, intelligent. Often, they're described as hypnotic. It's inaccurate to say that a cult leader brainwashes people. They convince them. They push a narrative and a belief that initially makes sense. What ultimately drives the label of a cult and what makes us, as a society, enthralled by them is what the leader is able to do to convince their followers to do. Big Boss is mean. No, but really, he's the worst. He manipulates people to do his own bidding. He kidnaps children. You saw those children, didn't you? Every one is a victim of a war somewhere in the world, and they'll make fine soldiers in the next war. He isolates, he ostracizes, and he co-signed a brainwashing tactic for his own benefit. For the entirety of MGSV, he hasn't even been on Mother Base. He's nowhere to be found. In Metal Gear 2, we find out he's been in Zanzibar Land starting a new cult from scratch. Diamond Dogs operates just as Big Boss intended. Hey guys, just wanted to say thank you all for sticking around for this long. If you're not aware, this was a two-person effort. My partner Kay did a lot of the research with cults in general. She also handled a lot of the writing, while I handled more of the game capture and editing side. We both did equal parts on the research. Kay and I also stream on Twitch weekly. We try to stream at least 3 times a week. Feel free to stop by, tell us how we did in person. We also have a Twitter. Feel free to follow the Twitter as well. And I guess don't forget to like and subscribe. That's weird to say, but don't forget to like and subscribe. You know, we might make more content in the future, more analysis videos. Anyway, thank you all for being here today. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day.